Have you ever noticed how maps are so much more than just roads and borders?
Oh, absolutely.
It's like when you find a place on a map that means something to you, there's this feeling of connection. Like Debbie Lee Wesselmann said, through our maps, we willingly become a part of their boundaries. If our home is included, we feel pride. If it is not, we accept our roles as outsiders.
That's such a powerful way to put it.
It really makes you think about how maps tie into our sense of belonging. You know,
Yeah, definitely. They go way beyond just helping you navigate. They're like visual stories, shaping how we see ourselves in the world, wouldn't you say?
exactly. And that's what makes this exhibition catalog we're diving into today so fascinating.
The World in Maps 1400, 1600 from Yale's Beinecke Library.
Right. It's like a window into how people centuries ago saw the world.
Absolutely. And the story behind this collection is pretty remarkable, too.
I was just thinking that. Imagine all these incredibly old maps, from before 1900,
Fragile pieces of history all brought together.
all in one place. This amazing reading room at the Beinecke.
They've created this hub where you can explore centuries of map making.
It's incredible. So we get this unique chance to see these maps as part of a bigger story.
Exactly. How our understanding of the world developed over time.
And the catalog really highlights that, each map shows a particular viewpoint.
The map maker's perspective, what they knew at the time, even their assumptions.
It's all right there in the map. Now, this collection does focus mainly on European maps from that time period.
Understandably, given the scope.
But it's not just a European story. We also see examples from the Arab world. And when you think about their contributions, like the astrolabe, it adds a whole other layer.
Essential for those European voyages, for sure.
And we also get to see later Asian printed maps, which develop in their own unique ways.
Independently, offering a really interesting contrast.
Exactly. It reminds us that this desire to map the world wasn't just a European thing, but something shared across cultures.
A universal human impulse.
And here's where it gets really interesting. The catalog also talks about forged maps in the collection. It's a good reminder that you can't always take historical documents at face value.
Especially maps. With all their symbolic weight, their potential value, skepticism is key.
Absolutely. Those forgeries, even when they're convincing, can really mess with our understanding of history.
And it highlights how important scientific analysis is to make sure we're getting the real story.
So, to guide us through today's deep dive, we're going to explore the four main parts of this exhibition.
Sounds like a plan.
We'll start with those amazing portland charts, how they showed the world before and after European contact with the Americas.
From there, we'll head upstairs to check out the Asian world maps.
And finally, we'll delve into the world of map forgeries. Those always make you think.
Definitely.
Okay, let's jump right in with the portland charts.
These are a great place to start. They were crucial tools for sailors navigating the Mediterranean.
And for trade, right?
Absolutely. The carte Passin, the oldest one we have, dates back to the 13th century.
It gives you a glimpse into the beginnings of this whole mapping tradition.
Precisely.
What always strikes me about them is how detailed they are. Almost like a satellite image, even though they were made centuries before we had that technology.
They do have that almost modern look, don't they?
Yeah. I read that it's connected to this old idea of the orbis terrarum with the Mediterranean at the center.
Right, the known world.
It's fascinating how these charts changed as Europeans started exploring beyond the Mediterranean.
Driven by curiosity, ambition, and religious zeal.
A real mix of motivations. And as they explored, the world depicted on these maps grew.
Exactly. They were constantly adapting to new discoveries.
The way the exhibition displays these charts is really cool too.
It is, isn't it?
You can view them from different angles because they didn't have a fixed orientation point.
No single top or bottom, which is interesting to think about. And as you look at them, you start to notice the visual language they use.
Like the text along the coastlines.
Right. Red for major ports, black for smaller ones. And those clusters of black dots.
What are those for again?
To mark shallow areas, potential hazards for sailors.
Like a heads up. Be careful here. The catalog also mentions a couple of key features that are almost always present.
Oh, you mean the Straits of Hercules, where Europe and Africa nearly meet?
And the Red Sea, usually shown in red or orange, which is fitting.
And often with a land bridge at the top representing the Exodus crossing.
Oh, I see. So these maps weren't just about geography. They were historical and even theological documents.
They reflect the beliefs of the time, absolutely.
Some even have depictions of Noah's Ark or Prester John. It's like they blend the real and the mythical.
It's a fascinating mix.
Now, the oldest portland chart in Yale's collection is the Beccari chart, made in Savona by a Venetian.
Francesco Beccari.
Right. And there's also the oldest dated Portuguese portolan chart from 1492.
The year Columbus set sail. It makes you wonder if he might have used maps just like it.
It's definitely possible. Portugal was really leading the way in African coastal exploration back then.
Under the patronage of Prince Henry the Navigator.
The catalog mentions that he was very protective of their maps and the knowledge they contained.
Maps held immense strategic and economic value.
And since the traditional portolan format wasn't ideal for depicting the long coastline of Africa, Portuguese map makers started adding insets to their charts.
Clever solution, providing more detail.
Speaking of Portuguese exploration, there's the Martellus map from around 1490.
Showing their exploration all the way around the Cape of Good Hope.
Amazing. The catalog even suggests that a map like this might have led Columbus to underestimate the Earth's circumference.
Which, of course, had major implications for his voyage.
Now, the original Martellus map is too big to display in the exhibition.
It is massive.
But they do have reproductions, including one made using multispectral imaging.
That's a really cool technique.
Can you tell us more about how it works?
Sure. It involves capturing images across different parts of the electromagnetic spectrum.
Infrared, ultraviolet.
Exactly. This helps reveal text that's faded or damaged over time, which would otherwise be invisible to the naked eye.
It's like they're bringing these old maps back to life.
In a way, yes.
One map maker who really stood out to me in the catalog was Judah ben Zora.
A Jewish cartographer expelled from Spain in 1492.
His story is fascinating and a bit heartbreaking, too.
He was forced to adapt to a new reality.
His 3 surviving maps are incredibly rare.
Some of the only known examples of non-European mapmaking from that era.
2 were made in Egypt, and the one at the Beinecke is from 1505 after he settled in Safin.
In the Galilee region.
The catalog points out that his Galilee map uses goat skin instead of the usual calf skin or sheepskin.
Interesting detail.
It suggests that he might not have had access to those more common materials in Safin.
And that the use of goatskin might reflect the local craft traditions.
Safed was a center for Kabbalistic studies, right?
Exactly. So it's this little detail that tells us so much about his journey in adaptation.
It really makes you think. With the discovery of the Americas in 1492, European mapmaking had to adapt as well.
A whole new world to incorporate.
And we see this with the Comberford atlases, made by English and Irish cartographers.
Showing how portolan chart productions spread beyond the Mediterranean.
And they were designed to be practical, square, and foldable.
Easy to carry and use.
Later portolans started including insets of the New World.
Trying to fit this new information into the old format.
It's like they were bridging different cartographic traditions.
Interesting hybrids.
The catalog specifically highlights charts showing Brazil and West Africa.
And their connection to the triangular trade.
It's a sobering reminder of the darker side of history.
Those maps are charting trade routes, but also implicitly mapping the horrific system of slavery.
The catalog doesn't shy away from that at all.
It's important to acknowledge the violence and exploitation that went hand in hand with those trade routes.
It also talks about the papal sanction given to Portugal, essentially allowing them to participate in the slave trade.
While Spain, although officially opposed, still condoned it in practice.
And then there's the Treaty of Tordesillas in 1494.
Dividing up the newly discovered lands between Spain and Portugal.
And in essence, deciding the fate of entire populations.
It underscores that maps were never neutral objects. They were deeply intertwined with power, economics, and sadly, injustice.
Absolutely. Okay, let's head upstairs to the second floor now.
To explore the Asian maps.
These maps offer such a different perspective on the world.
They do, don't they?
The catalog points out that pre-modern Asian manuscript maps are quite rare outside of a few regions.
China, Japan, and Korea.
Right. The Beinecke's collection includes printed maps from these regions, thought to be based on older manuscripts.
Providing valuable insights into their map-making traditions.
Korea, for example, had its own mapping tradition, but it was heavily influenced by Chinese conventions.
It's interesting how cultural exchange shapes these practices.
Some of the maps on display even have their roots in a Buddhist pilgrim's route map.
Highlighting the importance of oral traditions and personal journeys in understanding geography.
And it's a contrast to the European focus on maritime exploration.
Different ways of knowing and representing the world.
We also see that some of these Buddhist maps are oriented with east at the top.
A different spatial perspective.
Chinese maps from this period often place China at the center, with neighboring regions nearby.
Their worldview.
And they tend to emphasize religious sites rather than trade routes.
Again, highlighting different priorities.
There's one large Korean map that actually shows a blend of Chinese and early European influences.
showing how these traditions could interact.
The catalog contrasts two other Korean maps. One was for administrative purposes during the Joseon dynasty,
Showing how maps could be used for governance.
and the other was based on a Buddhist pilgrimage account, more like a cultural guide.
Different purposes, different forms.
Then we have the Japanese maps, which almost always place Japan right in the center.
A clear statement of self-perception.
North and South America are often poorly defined or pushed to the edges.
And Japan is sometimes exaggerated in size.
It really emphasizes how differently they saw the world.
Absolutely. These Asian maps provide an essential counterpoint to the European perspective.
Okay, for the final part of our deep dives, let's explore the world of map forgeries.
A fascinating and sometimes troubling aspect of cartography,
The catalog points out that map forgery has been a persistent problem.
driven by the value and symbolic weight of these objects.
Luckily, science has become a crucial tool in uncovering these fakes.
The Yale Institute for the Preservation of Cultural Heritage, or YIPCH, has been at the forefront of this work,
They even use scientific methods to determine what animal the parchment came from.
which helped confirm the unusual use of goat skin in Judah Ben-Zara's Galilee map,
And then there's the Vinland map, arguably the most famous case of map forgery.
generously donated to Yale by Paul Mellon.
It claimed to show Viking settlements in Newfoundland, predating Columbus.
A potentially groundbreaking discovery.
But science soon revealed some problems.
Initial analysis in the 1970s found traces of modern ink.
And carbon dating showed that the parchment, while from the 15th century, actually came from another book in the Beinecke's collection.
And more recent tests by YIPCH have confirmed the presence of that modern ink throughout the map.
So it was a clever forgery, but science caught up with it.
And there's another twist to the story.
What's that?
John Paul Floyd, working independently, discovered that the forger used an 18th century copy of a map as their model,
Not the original 1436 map as initially thought.
meaning the forgery couldn't have been made before 1783.
Wow, it's like a historical detective story.
It really is.
The catalog also highlights other forgeries from the exhibition, like the Fate Maggiolo portolan.
Carbon dating showed its parchment was from the 1950s,
Clearly a modern attempt.
modeled after the real Maggiolo chart already at Yale.
And then there's the Waldseemüller Globe Gores forgery.
Those are incredibly rare and valuable.
But experts spotted a telltale sign.
A printed shadow of a repair indicating it was made from a photograph of the original.
A forgery of a photograph of the original. That's pretty meta.
It is, isn't it?
The catalog emphasizes that forgeries aren't just about financial loss.
They can distort our understanding of history.
The Vinland map is a prime example. Even though Yale declared it a forgery in 1973, there are still some who believe it's real.
Showing how these forgeries can have a lasting impact.
The catalog even mentions an upcoming symposium at the Beinecke about this very issue.
Collaboration between historians and scientists.
It's so important to have both perspectives to really understand these objects.
Absolutely.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive into this exhibition catalog, what are some key takeaways for you?
I think it's incredible how much these early maps reveal.
They're not just about geography.
They're expressions of worldview, reflections of cultural exchange and conflict.
And sometimes even attempts at deception.
Precisely.
They offer us a glimpse into the minds of the people who created them.
Their beliefs, their technologies, their ambitions.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It does. What about the maps we use today?
The ones in our cars, on our phones. What stories are they telling about us?
I think that's something worth pondering.
It definitely is. If you're interested in exploring this exhibition further, you can visit the Beinecke Library's website.
There's a link via the QR code, usually found at the end of the exhibition materials.
It's a fascinating journey through history, seen through the lens of maps.
I highly recommend it.